Aloha and welcome to Island Connections. I am Ibrahim Aoude, your host for the evening. And the topic for today is Workers Talk Turtle Bay. And to discuss this topic, we have three people from Local 5. Claire Shimabukuro, thanks for coming. And she's an organizer in Local 5, and she's also the executive director of People's Fund. And then we have Jason Ward. He's the research analyst in Local 5. So welcome, Jason. And Daniel Kerwin, also, he's an organizer in Local 5 as well as a business agent. So thanks for coming, all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And you know, this show is live, so we like to hear from you, either comments or questions. For Oahu, it's 956-5670, and the neighbor islands 1-800-342-7949. So please feel free to call us and make comments or questions. Okay, so we're talking about Turtle Bay. But we want to, first of all, talk about the Local 5, you know, and the kinds of changes that I notice in Local 5 since the new leadership has come to take the helm of Local 5. So if you could begin talking to us about those kinds of changes. Maybe Claire, would you like to?
Well, I'll sort of kick it off. Typically, people think about unions as organizing in dark rooms with management, or negotiating in back rooms with management, and one of the things that our Secretary Treasurer Eric Gill has embraced is an organizing program, and there are basically two very strong components of it. The first is that we are now a member-driven union, meaning that our members are organized into workplace committees, and many of them are encouraged to come to these committees and to participate. And it is there that not only the basic shop floor issues are discussed, but issues that affect the union as well as the community. Mm-hmm. And the workplace committees are part of the second component, which is a comprehensive campaign. And by comprehensive, we mean that there are several different components to the way we carry our campaigns out. Workplace committees being the most important one, but we also have other components of the campaigns that we take up, and perhaps later Jason will speak to some of the others, such as a corporate campaign in which we research the corporations that we are negotiating with, and find out what kinds of, whether they're good corporate citizens or they're not, and hold their feet to the fire if they are not good corporate citizens. And we have legal campaigns in which we talk about some of the legal issues which affect the workplace, but also affect what those corporations do. And we also have the community component.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. You know, I mean, how different is this from the previous leadership?
Well, I'm not certain about the previous leadership, but I'm a community organizer for the Hotel Workers Union, and it's a great job, and it's my pleasure to do that, because what we do is we seek out community allies in the different struggles and campaigns that we take up, and so I get to interface and meet with really wonderful interfaith leaders from the different churches here who really weigh in on a lot of our different struggles, who come and delegate management, who bless our demonstrations, who bless our delegations, who speak at city council meetings, and they're driven by their moral compass and their dedication to social justice. But I also get to meet really wonderful community activists, such as a woman named Dee Dee Heron, whom we'll talk about later, who is a Kanaka Maoli fisherman and water sportswoman, who is really amazing because she can tell you all about what fish are running on the North Shore, where the lobsters are, and she is truly dedicated to a hunter-gatherer, as she calls herself, subsistence kind of existence, and she's very visible in the community, and she is also really brave. She takes on corporations like the Turtle Bay with regard to her particular need to access the shoreline to do her gathering and hunting.
Yeah, great. So also, Daniel, maybe you would like to comment on this in terms of various struggles that Local 5 has entered into, and some of the victories that you've done in terms of contracts, and what other kinds of issues you are facing in the future.
Okay, well, we've completed many of the hotels in Waikiki already. Got very good contracts in a period when expectations were low. I can tell you after 9/11, a lot of people believed that it wasn't possible to get a good contract. But we did, and we did that through our new committee system. We are currently working on other contracts, and later on we'll also attempt to organize new properties and organize the unorganized. I'll give a little bit of good news I can announce tonight is that the Ala Moana Hotel will be voting to ratify a contract tomorrow.
Yeah, excellent.
So they've been waiting a long time, and we're very proud of that. And we have many other contracts to do, including Turtle Bay, which is the subject of tonight's show.
Yeah. Good.
So.
Before we go to Jason and ask you, to comment from your perspective, we have a caller, Phil from Kaneohe. So you're on the air, Phil. Hello. Well, shall we get back to Phil later on? I don't know what happened. So, Jason, would you like to comment on this, changes, like from your perspective as a research analyst?
Sure, it's great. I mean, it's been really exciting for me to see the members stepping forward, and I mean, the power of the union is all about the members and the members coming together and sticking. As Claire pointed out, I mean, a union is not about the leadership's ability to negotiate a contract. It's about the members' ability to come together and fight for what they deserve. And I think we've really seen that in our major citywide campaign that we had. And as Daniel mentioned, the Ala Moana was the last of 8 hotels in the citywide campaign. So we still have a lot of work to do settling other contracts and moving forward to organizing the non-union hotels. But I think we've really pulled things together. And these days, I mean, the workers are the most important thing, but the companies that we're dealing with are no longer local companies. These are mega corporations, multinational corporations, and we have to look at other ways to put pressure on those companies in order to do the right thing for the community and for the workers that we represent. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been working on is researching companies, looking at what they're doing and what they may do, how that impacts the community. And figuring out ways that we can join together with community allies to push these companies to do the right things by their workers and by the community. And one example of that is that these corporations have different messages that they put out. They tell their shareholders one thing and they tell their workers another thing. So one of the things that I'm able to do is sort of take the message that they have for their shareholders and give it to the workers, and take the message for the workers and give it to the shareholders, and that puts them in a little tight spot about explaining why they're speaking out of two sides of their mouth sometimes.
Yeah. So in fact, research becomes a very important instrument in terms of organizing, and not only just carrying the message out, but in terms of organizing and empowering the workers to figure out what's going on and so on, and what they are up against, and the rest of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, after September 11th, all the hotels were crying poor and saying how they were suffering, and of course the business wasn't as good as it would have been if that tragedy hadn't have happened, but by doing a little bit of research you can find out that they're still actually making quite a lot of money. And I think it was very important for our members to know that, because they know that they can, the money is there and they have to fight for it in order to get it.
Yeah. Any other comments before we go into Turtle Bay that you want to bring up in terms of new organizing drives and so on? Daniel, would you like to say something?
Well, I mean, like Claire said earlier, the main thing that we've done in transforming this union is making people understand that they are the union. It's not a building, it's not an administration, it's the members. They are the union. And we've gotten more people involved in this union than ever before. We have a lot of people stepping forward. We have hundreds of new leaders in this union, and I think that's what we're most proud of, is having new people come forward, merging with the older people who've built this union, and together I think this union is stronger than it's ever been before. And I think you probably noticed that we're probably the most visible union now. We've been on TV and the newspapers, and we've been out on the street helping HNA when the nurses went out on strike. And we're proud of what we've done to energize the membership, to get them involved. And we haven't hit every corner of the union yet. There may be some areas of the union that feel that haven't experienced this, but we will get to them. If there is a unit out there that feels, hey, what about us? We will get to them. Okay, this committee system, it works, And once we get it set up in every area, then there's sky's the limit for this union.
Yeah. I'm curious, Claire, I mean, you know, you're a community organizer for Local 5. I'm wondering whether previous to this new leadership, there was this position of community organizer in the union.
Well, as far as I know, there hasn't been. I do know that the position of community organizer, and in fact, a community organizing department exists at other locals of the Hotel Employees and Restaurant Employees Union, and had the opportunity to visit with the community organizing lead in Los Angeles. And they're doing wonderful things. They're doing really wonderful things. But
here, this is the first time in Hawaii, in a long time at least, that...
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I believe it is.
Yeah, okay, great. So we want to begin about talking about Turtle Bay, because, I mean, this is basically the subject here, but we want to put it in context of what the union is doing and so forth. So we have... a footage by Philly Chansey and George Cox, two workers at Turtle Bay, giving their perspective on the recent struggles with the management company and the owners as well. So we'll watch that video.
I work at the housekeeping department for almost 13 years. And we cleaned like 16, 17, 18, 19 rooms for the past few months. And we're making like $9.93 an hour. And it's not fair for us. It's almost 6 years, no more increase, only 25 cents since then. It's not fair, you know. We deserve to have a contract because we work too hard. Why don't they sign the contract for us? Yeah. What is the problem? That's the only thing that I didn't understand.
Well, many of the issues, the owners, Oak Tree, they feel like they want to really streamline the contract. They want to eliminate a lot of issues, especially in the maintenance department. They want to eliminate full-time. They want to include part-time and on-call. Our hotel is in constant need of repair, and there's always full-time employment for the maintenance department. Fortunately, our staff has increased in the past 3 months. Most shifts are now adequately staffed. The benchmark company does not have any hindrance on overtime, which is nice. But the owners, they seem to want to eliminate a lot of the fringe benefits that we've actually lost back in our previous contract. They want to keep it that way. We certainly want to get back some of the fringe benefits in our contract that were eliminated in our current contract.
Yeah, so here we have Philly Chansey and also George talking about you know, their perspectives. But before we discuss this, we have a caller, Jimmy from Eva Beach. So Jimmy, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I was one of the first, you know, people.
I can barely hear you. Could you speak up or?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of the first organizers for Local 5 because I used to live down Aoude. And naturally, you know, during that time, the ILWU also was trying to get a contract for this.
Yeah, so...
you know, my question...
Yeah, your question, yes.
Do the ILWU still have a contract for the maintenance down there?
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks, Jimmy. We'll try and answer that particular question. So let's talk about, you know, the footage we saw and also to answer Jimmy's. Anyone?
Well, first of all, the maintenance department at the Turtle Bay Resort is represented by Local 5, not by the ILWU. As far as what George and Feli talked about, we are currently in negotiations the proposals that management benchmark has put on the table in behalf of Oak Tree Capital, which is the owners, is very concerning to us. I mean, they're very damaging proposals, proposals that do not represent a commitment to the community. Our members, many of our members that work there live in and around the hotel, and they are the community. And the proposals that management put on the table are very, very disturbing to us.
Yeah.
And some of them were mentioned by George and Feli. You know, they said that they only got a 20-cent raise in the last 6 years. That's true. They've sacrificed a great deal over the last 6 years. The company was not doing very well, so they've foregoed raises. They allowed the company to fall behind on their medical contributions. They did not get very much of an increase in their pension. They lost their hot lunch in the cafeteria. There's a lot of things that they gave up over the years to sacrifice for the company. And now the company's spending $40 million or more on renovations and going around the community giving out money. And they don't see a commitment to them. You know, the investment should be in the people, not just in concrete. And they're just kind of fed up with what the proposals that management has put forward.
Yeah, good. I want to, go ahead.
If I can just respond to Jimmy, the caller's question. I believe that the ILW does have a bargaining unit at the Turtle Bay Resort, and they represent the lands maintenance crew on the golf course, but not at the hotel property itself.
Yeah, good. I want to ask you something about the research you have done about, Turtle Bay Management Company and owners as well. But before we do that, there's other workers that we interviewed that talk about specific issues like, the work that they have at the restaurant where they work. Like we have Virginia Guerrero. And let's watch the tape and then comment further on it.
When they know that the plantation was to phase out, the community and other politicians have had meetings about the permit for having this hotel in the North Shore, so that the North Shore people and those people from the plantation that lose their job could have their job at the hotel. And that worked for some people because some of those plantation workers that was laid off weren't trained for the hotel jobs. And then the community, some of the community were hired there. And I'm one of them because I've been here in the Kahuku since 1960. I don't know when we're gonna finish and have signed contract. They say they spend so much money for renovation, and I know they have lots of money.
Yeah, lots of money, and they're using the money for renovations, but not to give...
to our having a contract for the safety of our job. They should give a chance to those local people for the management department. While those promises, before the hotel was built, it was for the community, and those people that work at the plantation will have the first priority to get the job.
Yeah, so here we have a couple of issues, actually more than that. But anyway, first the question of the promises that have been made to the community, but also what the status of this corporation, is in terms of Turtle Bay. So would you like to speak to that?
Sure. There's two entities involved here. There's the ownership, which the ownership as of beginning in 1998, and then there was a number of legal battles between various business partners. But the result was that in 2000, Oak Tree Capital Management took over as the owning entity of the hotel, and the hotel includes 880 plus acres and about slightly over 5 miles of the North Shore coastline as well. Oak Tree Capital Management is what's called a vulture fund. They look for distressed debt or distressed properties in this case and go in and try to buy things cheap, fix them up, and sell them for a higher price and therefore make a profit. Oak Tree has they manage about $25 billion worth of assets for corporate funds, public pension funds, and other institutional investors, university endowments, all kinds of entities. Let me, if I can, there was in September of 2001, Business Week had a cover story entitled "The Return of the Wall Street Vulture," and I just want to read a quote from that article, if I can. The section is "The Fast Buck Vultures." And the article states, Howard Marks, chairman of a $20 billion vulture fund, Oaktree Capital Management, LLC, has no interest in gaining control of companies for the long run. He aims to earn a big payoff as fast as possible by buying the troubled loans of debt-plagued companies. And then a direct quote from him in this article, "We are trying to buy $1 for 50 cents, says Mark, who operates from an immaculate white marbled office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. If you want cheap, you have to find it on the slag heap."
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the logic of capital here, and making those kinds of issues. But I want to ask you, Claire, in terms of what Virginia was talking about, the promises that were made by the initial owners, and so how that transpired over time and what's happening right now in regards to, the community and the workers vis-a-vis the owners and management.
Well, one of the things, last week our workplace committee, the Turtle Bay, met with two members of the community, Kathy and Creighton Mattoon, who live in Punalu'u and who've been activists on that side of the island. And Kathy actually also worked at the Turtle Bay. And they talked about how when the Kahuku plantation closed down, and I believe it was in the 70s, there were massive layoffs, and there was the idea to sell a hotel, that, and along with this, there were plans for 5 hotels, 2 golf courses. The area was ag zoned, and it was least desirable because there was no infrastructure. It's very windy up there. And Prudential and Del Webb, I believe, came to the community and said, we really want to develop this area. And because the community is very strong and organized out there, the community really wanted to weigh in on this. And not only with regard to the issue of jobs, because there was the issue of laid off sugar workers that needed jobs, but they also wanted to make certain that the country would still be country and not, as Daniel says, covered in concrete. And so there's been a legacy of corporations coming to the community and saying, we will give you jobs. And so therefore we want to be able to develop this area. And from what we know, and of course Kathy and Creighton could speak to it much more informedly than I can, but they talked about how originally there had been promises of worker housing, of child care, and as it were, the social contract with regard to taking care of the workers, or as Virgie said, or even allowing some of the residents to be able to step into higher paying jobs, has never really quite materialized. And the intent of the corporations has always been to sell it to the next guy, and sell it to the next guy, and sell it to the next guy. And that's what's happened. And in fact, I believe in 1983, the hotel actually closed down. And when it reopened again, many of the workers that were laid off during that, or who lost their jobs because the hotel closed, were not rehired. And so there was a struggle to see if to fight for those jobs. And the Mattoons, who are members of the community, actually walked the picket lines because, as concerned members of the community, they felt it was really important to support those workers. And again, the people who work at the hotel are also the community. They live in that area.
Yeah. It's interesting, as you're talking, I was remembering the song Waimanalo Blues, the beaches they sell to build their hotel, my father and I once knew, and the impact of this kind of development on the community. So this, the things you're saying, give real substance to that song, and makes it live, but now it's Windward Blues rather than Waimanalo. So it's rather interesting to me. But there's another interview we did with Anna, and she talks about the specific thing that you mentioned, which is the health issue. So we could watch that and then talk more about it.
On the health and welfare plan, a lot of employees are concerned because we're behind Waikiki, and you know we're kind of scared of what's going to happen if we have to pay if our hotel doesn't, you know, help us out and get to what we're supposed to be paying at the health and welfare plan. So far, we ain't getting nowhere on the medical.
Yeah, so Danny, you might want to talk more about this, because I know you have something about the medical that you would like to bring up on this issue.
We have a health and welfare fund that employers put money into, and the company has not put in their fair share. They are currently about 58 cents behind per hour per worker. And what happens is if they don't increase that, there could be a future ahead for these workers of co-payments, high co-payments, or they could lose their retiree medical benefits. And there's a lot of ugly things that can happen if they don't increase their contribution. And that's one of the biggest concerns for our members, is they don't want to see their medical plan fall apart. You know, they don't want stripped down coverage. They have quality medical. We're very proud of what we've been able to achieve for them. But the employer is going after that right now by not offering enough money to cover that. It's caused a lot of concern amongst the members.
Yeah.
And that's one of our major issues.
Yeah, that's one of the things they're trying to cut, you know, or, okay.
If I could just add to that. I mean, as Daniel mentioned, our Health and Welfare Fund is a joint union management fund, and with representatives of both union and management sitting on the board. And the management trustees are saying that they cannot approve a contract unless it meets the standard that other hotels are paying. They have to pay the same. I mean, the other hotels are basically sick and tired of subsidizing the Turtle Bay property, and so the Turtle Bay has to contribute its fair share to that fund.
Yeah. So before we go any further with having comments from you, Claire, I'd like to show another interview we had with Elena Mihan and Didi Heron. And so this is brings the community as well as the workers together, and the workers are basically from the community. So we can watch this and then have you comment on that kind of relationship.
A year ago, everybody had you know how everybody goes around and do the shaka sign? They told us not to do that. They prohibited us from doing that. But that's our culture, you know? That's what our aloha is, to say goodbye, say hello.
So you feel that they're putting restrictions on local culture, or workers practicing their own culture?
Yes, and also all these new people that came in, and they studied Hawaiian culture, and then they're teaching us about the Hawaiian culture, which is what we grew up as Hawaiian culture.
That's what they have to realize. We are the host culture. The Hawaiian, the Kanaka Maoli, we are the host culture. And when you come here, and like the other people were saying, they're bringing people here to teach us our culture, give me a break. The locals started coming to me who work there. And I say, I know, we haven't had this problem. We've never had this problem there. And they're telling me their grievances, and I'm becoming the community activist spokesman for them. And we need to see change there. We really do.
Yeah, and also like, here Elena and Didi. And Didi, I know that she had a number of her relatives who worked and retired from Turtle Bay. So there's that kind of relationship between the community and, the workers and Turtle Bay. So Claire, would you comment on this?
There's quite a few things to comment. I mean, aside from working at the Turtle Bay, Didi talks about how the community supports the hotel in terms of having baby luau's there, having weddings and so forth. And she's told us that in the last couple of years, her family had two parties, which resulted in, I think, $30,000 in revenue for the hotel. So that's one issue. But the issue that Elena was talking about is one of which illustrates, how draconian this hotel is, and talks about what kind of resort this is. What she's referring to is that the workers were told by management at one time that they couldn't do the shaka sign because it was not fitting for a soon-to-be 4-star hotel, exclusive hotel. And number one is that, it's and along with that, hired someone from the mainland, wholly from the mainland, to teach the workers about local culture. And as we've seen from the clips, it's extremely insulting. I mean, as Didi said, this is the host culture. People have grown up in this culture. And then the next thing, and we'll probably be speaking to it very soon in this program, is the issue that Didi herself has with the Turtle Bay, which is the issue of access to her fishing holes and to her lobster holes. And that's something that goes much broader than just the Turtle Bay. It's issue of Native Hawaiian gathering rights.
Yeah.
And that's told particularly in this case against the backdrop of the Turtle Bay Hotel, who last May, when Didi was out hunting lobsters, told her that she could not do this for a couple of reasons. One is that because of September 11th, they're worried about what their guests would think, and that it was not acceptable for the kind of resort that it was going to become. And so she continues to fight this for her rights to access.
Yeah. In fact, we have the footage from that. She's talking about that particular issue. And I think we should view it and then discuss it further, because it's actually rather important in regards to what she's talking about, like the law, Public Access Shoreline Hawaii, which she refers to as PASH, which is PASH, and then how it relates to those things. So we'll watch and then discuss further.
I've always been surfing at Turtle Bay and on the North Shore. And after that, I became a hunter-gatherer. And now I teach my children and my grandchildren the crafts that I know, the sports that I know. And as far as Turtle Bay is concerned, this incident came up with this new management, which for 30 years I've never had a problem going fishing there. And suddenly they told me, they sent a security guard down where I was fishing off the cliff on the rocky shoreline just beyond the pool. And the security guard told me that I had to leave the premise, that they had a directive that there is no longer any fishermen allowed in this area. And so I asked him to take me to their night manager because there's a PASH issue. And he didn't understand because he's a haole guy from the mainland. So he didn't understand what I was talking about. So I went to talk to Debbie, the night manager, and I quoted PASH to her, and I told her my situation, that I always come here. I've never had any problems with since that place has opened. I've hunted, gathered, fished here all my life, and why now? So she told me that, well, I would still have to leave the premise because the new management had this directive. And I said, well, you'll have to arrest me. And I went back to the swimming pool area, and I remained there till about 1:30 at night, 1:45, and I left. And then I told her that there would be a community meeting at the neighborhood board, Ko'olaulua, to please send some representative, if not management, from the new hotel owners to come. So they sent George Prey to the meeting and another one of their mainland managers. And I gave a presentation to the board, and the board, who was supposed to be voting on their SMA permits to go up further to the BLNR and the city council for permission to get their SMA permits, deferred. So needless to say, they weren't happy with me.
Yeah, here, Didi is talking about those kinds of experiences, and that leads me to ask you, Jason, about, you mentioned that they have like 5 miles of shoreline and 800 some acres of property, etc. And I noticed this button on your shirt, keep the country country. So could you talk about this plus the other kinds of plans that they might have for that part?
As Didi mentioned, the owners of the Turtle Bay Resort are applying for a special management area use permit, which would allow them
to do... That's the SMA.
That's the SMA permit, which allows them to develop within the coastal zone. They are applying for that. There was a DPP hearing was last Friday, and
What's
then
DPP?
Sorry, excuse me. Department of Permitting and Planning, which is basically a land use specialist in the government, in the county government, and that will now proceed to the City Council Zoning Committee. There's going to be, within the next month, there'll be a public hearing at the City Council Zoning Committee, and then it will have to go before the full council. They're looking for permits to change the nature of the resort to more of a corporate meeting type location, and they want to expand the ballroom. But we have, along with Didi and our allies in the community, we have some serious concerns about this permit. One is that is clearly the issue of access. And let me take a step backwards here. And another SMA, Special Management Area permit, was granted in 1986 to previous owners. And that permit gave the owners of the property the right to develop 4 new hotels, 8 separate condo developments, and that totals about almost 1,500 new hotel rooms and over 2,000 condo units on that property. And they have the right to do that now. They essentially would just go through the formality of getting building permits. The time for further environmental impacts study was done in 1985, and on the basis of that, they were given these permits. So unless the City Council requires that there be a new environmental impact statement, there'll be very little opportunity for public review or any current updated environmental impact analysis before they can proceed with that. And one of the things that was part of the 1986 permit was the creation of 4 different parks. 2 of them would be beachfront parks with substantial each and 5 rights of way to provide access to the various points along the 5 miles of shoreline. And each of those would have had separate parking and public facilities. None of that has ever happened, partly because the way that permit was granted in the resolution as it was passed by the City Council, there were triggers for park dedication and for establishing those rights of access that haven't occurred. So those issues are still outstanding.
Good. Daniel, I understand you went to a Department of Permitting Planning meeting. So could you share with us some of the things that happened?
Well, I can tell you that we showed up with several of our members. They spoke out against the granting of this permit. They feel that when they come here to Hawaii, they have to sign a social compact with the community, and they haven't done that. Their proposals that in negotiations reflect that, and they just feel like if people are going to come here and ask for tax credits or ask for permits and things, they have to show a commitment to the community, and they don't see that in Oak Tree. A commitment to us, to our members, is a contract, and they haven't done it. So they came there to speak on those issues. There were other people in the community that came out, like Didi, who spoke about access. Everybody has their own issues to bring up with this company. They seem to have done a very good job of pissing off a lot of people.
Well, that's good. Another thing, we want to go to another footage in a bit, but what I want to say, also in terms of keeping faith with the community, they haven't even given good contracts to the workers there. And we have George Cox talking about this successorship. And so we can explain what successorship is after we also hear what George Cox has to say about it from his own perspective.
Well, the workers are facing the anxiety of not having the successorship in their contract that we're negotiating for right now. There is a fear that the owners will sell and not have that successorship. They don't want to have it. They want to have a clean slate. And the employees would like to have the successorship because that guarantees their future for employment. One of the other issues in our successorship issue is the relative feeling that we have as second-class employees. Many of the hotels here in Hawaii, in Waikiki especially, their contracts now reflect successorship clause. And we at Turtle Bay await that opportunity to be a first-class employee, matching the agreement that Waikiki has. Our feelings now are we feel like second-class employees. So that has an effect on our future as well. And we petitioned the owner representatives to sit down with us. We're human beings. We're individuals with we're multi-talented, multi-ethnic group of people. We have a colorful culture. I was born and raised here in Hawaii, and a lot of my friends are Ilocano and Korean, and and Hawaiʻs. And the pleasure of having to work with them has been 21 years of pleasure. But I'd like to see them, and I'd like to be a first-class employee with a great successorship clause in our contract.
Yeah, here again, like we have, we talked about workers talk Turtle Bay, and that's what they're exactly doing, from their own perspective, how they feel, and so on. So I'm wondering, if any of you has comments on this, what George was talking about, or Daniel, or...
Well, George was talking about job security, and that's probably the #1 issue. Job security doesn't cost a thing. We're sitting there in negotiations, and management is telling us that they don't have any money, even though they manage $25 billion in assets. And job security doesn't cost anything. So they cannot use the war, they can't use occupancy levels and other things as excuses to why they can't give us this. And what George was referring to was successorship, which means if the hotel is sold, if it changes hands, that the union, the contract, and the workers will stay. And pretty much every hotel we've negotiated with, I think every single one of them that we've completed a contract with has given us that. We even had a hotel at the airport that went into bankruptcy and came out of bankruptcy, and they might go back into bankruptcy. They gave us job security protection. This hotel that wants to be a renegade, they don't want to follow the same pattern that everybody else is following, and they want to do their own thing. And it's sad because the people up on the North Shore deserve a fair contract just like everybody else. They're not second-class workers. They work just as hard as everybody else. And that's the sad thing, that management can come to the table and say they care about the community and then put a proposal on the table that doesn't include job security. And to make matters worse, they rejected the union's proposal to protect the workers from subcontracting. So right now, the company has taken a position that would allow them to subcontract out all their jobs, and we don't understand why they can't agree to stuff that doesn't cost anything. So
yeah. Before we comment further, I want to integrate one of the questions that a caller have. Susan from Kahuku, she didn't want to be on the air apparently. So is the way that the company is treating the employees now a reflection of how the company will interact with the community? I mean, so we can integrate this with would you that or Claire?
Sure. I mean, I think as folks around the table have said, I mean, the workers are part of the community, and I mean, I've went to one of our committee meetings yesterday and last week on Thursday, and hearing from our members up there saying that basically, how can the community trust these people if we can't trust them if they're not being straightforward with us? So I mean, I do think that how they treat their employees is definitely a reflection of how they treat their community, how they treat the community at large.
Yeah, Claire.
So to add to that, we were at the Department of Planning and Permitting hearing the SMA permits, and the very last testimony was one that wasn't planned, of a young man who had not written his name down but got up, and he happened to be the son of one of the Turtle Bay employees, and he got up in a very emotional voice and he said, "Folks, this is all about the community." And what that means is that in this case the workers are the community because they live in the community, and so an answer to that is it a reflection of how the company's treating the community. The company's treating members of the community in this way because members of the community are employed at the hotel.
Yeah. So it's actually vulture capital in action.
Yes.
with no regard to anything except the bottom line, which is profits, and that's why they want to do that kind of development on the windward side, which would be, I mean, I live on the windward side, not far from, Turtle Bay. I live in Hauula, and I visit Kahuku and other places quite frequently. So I like to keep the country and have a responsible, business concern there, and that has good relations with the community. What's wrong with those kinds of issues? So,
also too, the way in which Didi has been treated, and Didi comes from that community. She's been fishing in that area for 40 years, and that's an example of what this corporation thinks of people whose ancestors lived there for millennia before, and have always practiced fishing and honoring sacred sites and so forth.
Yeah, they might want to teach Didi about Hawaiian culture too. But anyway, so in fact, this is a nice way of going back to Didi as she's talking about some of her experiences. And she talks about Judge Klein, who is also, who represents, the owners, I believe, of Turtle Bay. So we will watch this tape.
I met with him and Rose Hill, their attorneys at Queen Liliuokalani. He had just come out of OHA meeting, and he had just sworn himself in as their counsel. And I met him at the meeting, and I mentioned that to him, and he kind of got irate with me, and he says, well, I'm a beneficiary too. And I looked at him and I said, oh, great, but you can't serve two masters. Yeah. So since then I've gone to OHA and I've done presentation with them and brought up that issue, and they're pretty upset. There's one lady that was complaining because she was told she wasn't to go beyond the golf course to pick limu. And she came to the neighborhood board and talked about that also. Also, on the Kawela Bay side, they dedicated 4.5 acres of part of their new development as a public park. However, we can't have access to that 4.5 acres until Phase 3 is in. And after all this renovation, they plan to build another hotel there. Probably not these owners, probably somebody else. But the master plan is there. So I told them at the meeting, I want a 10-foot access on the Kawela Bay side where the people jump over the fence now to go surfing and fishing. I'm going to ask for that at the City Council and the BLNR when these meetings come up. And I'm also going to ask for a 10-foot easement all along the shoreline for fishermen. Whether they put in a walkway or not, we don't need it. We just need to get to our fishing holes. I'm a subsistence person. I can't afford not to go to the ocean. I'm in the ocean 2-3 times a week. I feed my family.
Yeah, that was a nice octopus right there. But actually, I mean, here we're talking about serious issues in regards to the community. I mean, we keep coming back to that, and that is, I'm struck by the way, Local 5 is really dealing with the community in a very integral way. It's not like something, let's gain the community to our side, but actually they feel, Local 5 feels that, their workers or their members are from the community, and the community has, a stake in this, and the workers have a stake in the community. So, I mean, this is very important. So I wonder if you have comments on those issues.
Well, I think unions serve a function in terms of the business of the unions, in terms of protecting collective bargaining rights for the members that they represent. But also, unions in past times, and even more so, I think it's urgent that we do in these times, need to be very, very concerned about social issues as well, and need to be good members of the community. And so it's important that unions take up issues beyond just job site collective bargaining issues.
Yeah.
Because our members, after all, do live in the community.
Sure. Yeah.
I think, to sort of get back to how the changes that have happened at Local 5, I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a transition from business unionism, where the only thing that matters is, sort of shop floor grievances and handling that, to more of a social movement unionism, where the union is part of the larger community. And,
yeah. In fact, I teach a course on this semester on social movements in Hawaii. In fact, one of my students has done a report on Local 5 and the question of labor against war. And so that's another way of dealing with the community and taking issues beyond what might be affecting merely the workers, but also the community as a whole. And you folks have put up good positions in regards as to why you are against the war, because it directly affects your workers and your members and so on. So I think if that is something that shows that you are really serious about dealing with the community and so on.
One thing is that corporations, they give out a lot of money, and that's how they get power, by donating money here and there. And the only power that we have is people. And whether it be our members or people in the community, people is all we have. We don't have the pockets that these people have. So when these corporatos come into town and start handing out money in the community, some people, they fall for that. They say, wow, these are good guys, these are good neighbors. And what we have to do is say, okay, if you are a good neighbor, then how do you treat your own working family, right? And when we look at that, when we look at Oak Tree and Benchmark and see how they treat their working family, it's pretty apparent that they're not a good corporate citizen.
Yeah, right.
And if they want us to be partners with them and help them, and believe me, we want them to be successful. We don't want to kill the golden goose. We want them to be successful so that our members have good jobs. We're not interested in just having jobs. We want good jobs. Okay. We don't need minimum wage jobs. We need good quality jobs, and that's what we're fighting for.
Yeah, that's good. If I can just go to caller Mike from Mānoa, and then we'll see what else we can talk. Mike, you're on the air.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure.
First of all, congratulations on the show. It's a breath of fresh air.
Thanks.
Lovely to hear labor for a change, and congratulations to Local 5, which seems to have a healthy breath of fresh air blowing through it too. I have a few little detailed questions. First one is, why does DD have to apply for easements? Isn't it a right of people in Hawaii to have access to beaches? Surely the hotel has no right to prohibit, so they could get an injunction against the hotel rather than apply for an easement, I would think. So that's a question, really. Second thing is, has Local 5 made any effort to get the guests at the hotel on their side, sort of educating the guests about what's happening? Because if you hit them in the pocket, a pocketbook by stopping guests going or encouraging guests not to go, that could be a good tactic. Third question was, has there been any sort of establishment media coverage that's been positive on the whole issue, like for the local papers and so on?
Yeah.
Fourth one, the ILWU was mentioned a couple of times. I didn't know that they had the golf course workers there. What's the HERE people's attitude to that? I know the HERE picketed, because I picketed too, on a ILWU project in Waikiki. You help them out on that. Have they been helping you out on this? What's their attitude?
Right.
Strike.
Okay, yeah.
And then the last question, which you may not want to get into, that's fine. But if you do and think it's appropriate, I have heard over the last few months that there was a larger union on the mainland trying to take over hotel and restaurant workers. Is that true? But again, you don't want to deal with that, fine. And again, congratulations on a great show.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just say something. I mean, excellent question about the first question, because it's not only PASH, Public Access Shoreline Hawaii, but it's Hawaii Revised Statutes. I mean, this is legal, but we only have 5 minutes, so we try to be brief and answer those questions. But so you want to just briefly,
there's a couple things. I'd like to kind of answer question 1 with regard to the access, and then number 4 with regard to the Longshoremen's Union. I'll answer 4 first. Is that Jason and I belong to an organization called Hawaii Labor Against the War, and which the ILW also sends representatives, and so we've worked very closely with them in that. But I also want to read very quickly the landmark decision with regard to Didi, and it's what she has cited as a Supreme Court decision, and I'll just basically summarize one part of it. That the court found that public interest organization Shoreline Hawaii PASH had standing to challenge the permit in a contested case hearing before the county commission. The rights of Native Hawaiians must be recognized by Western-style views on private property, the court said.
Right. So, in fact, that's very important. So we have Hawaii revised statutes and also PASH to some extent. Let's see, media coverage. Did you think of media to try and help out, and the guests as well? You know, the guests would be good allies, you know, if you...
Certainly, and we haven't done outreach to guests at the moment, but that's certainly something that's planning.
Sure.
And one thing that people should know about is that on May 1st, which is International Workers' Day, we'll be out there at Turtle Bay having a little rally and having some fun and having a little beach party. So we encourage folks in the community to come out there and join us.
And the number is 941-2141 to ask Local 5 about details. Either Daniel, Kerwin, or Marian Marsh you can ask for and get details for that. So anyway, about the ILWU quickly, is there some kind of relationship between you folks and the ILWU to help each other out and so on this particular issue?
As a matter of fact, one of the founders of the ILW recently was a keynote speaker at our Shop Street convention.
That's good.
And she talked about how we Akwan Mako, you know well. And she talked about how unions really need to pull together in solidarity at this period of time, and so.
Okay, we have 2 minutes, and I want to take Jimmy from Eva Beach. So Jimmy, you're on the air. Quickly, please.
Okay. I just wanted to compliment the local 5 representative, because a lot of the things that has been brought up is, really important for those people down in our shore.
Yeah.
Because I used to live in Aula. And I was the first one, I used to represent the community association. And that's when this Turtle Bay thing came out, well, I was down there supporting because I wanted jobs for the community.
Right.
And I didn't want Honolulu people to be going down there.
Okay.
North Shore is a big a big area.
Good.
But I just wanted to just bring this up.
Okay,
but
very good.
You can get support from the community, the neighborhood board.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, I want to go to another footage quickly that's important that Didi is talking about because it has to do with Native Hawaiian issues. So we will watch the video.
I have people from Hilo who come down there and they go to the pool side. There's an owl stone that was broken and it's in pieces down below the pool. They come to give ho'okupu even though it's broken. We know where the heiaus are. We know where the bones are. And these people just don't care. They even go in there and they've done grading. They've re-renovated the poolside area and backfilled to where now I have to go and crawl along the rocks to get to my fishing home. Look at the place names of Hawaii. You'll find all the stories in that book of all the places that were down here where the night marchers came down, where the heiaus are, where the owl stones are. I just hope to God that all this comes out to where either they leave because we're not leaving and they grant the people their access rights that we deserve and that they treat the people who are working there well and with respect, because they deserve it. They're all hard-working people.
Yeah, so this is a good thing to end up the show with, and I'd like to thank our viewers and thanks to the callers as well. Sorry we were unable to answer all of these questions, but we try to answer them quickly as possible. And thank you folks for coming and sharing your mana'o with you. So mahalo for everybody, and aloha. See you next month, sorry.
I just want to give you this button.
Oh, okay.
It's our button that our workers are wearing. It says respect, dignity, and contract.
Okay.
So I want to give this to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll put it right now.
Along with your keeper.